Churches burn down as anger over cultural genocide of indigenous children sweeps Canada.
Here's a summary of the article.
No one has claimed responsibility, but the suspected arson attacks came after more than 1,000 unmarked graves believed to hold indigenous children were discovered at 3 former schools operated by the Catholic Church. Nearly 24 more churches across Canada, many of which stood on indigenous lands, have been anonymously vandalized or reduced to cinders. Many of the schools were run by the Catholic Church. We wake up from time to time and hear that another church has burned down. The recent developments have underscored the complexity of the Church's history for many Indigenous people. Father Obi noted that the Sacred Heart Church, built entirely from wood by the Penticton Indian Band community in 1911, had offered a spiritual home to many living on the First Nation reserve. Recovering from the trauma of the past can only be achieved when the Catholic Church is forthcoming about its role in the assimilation program.
This post received a score of 42,000, with an upvote ratio of 85%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Doesn't sound that complex to me.
I can't speak for Canadian First Nations people, but having lived and worked on and near the res in New Mexico, the relationship between indigenous cultures and Catholicism, Christianity and Western society and its institutions is extraordinarily complex, with aspects of care and attitudes that are at once inextricable yet contradictory. There is a real love-hate relationship existing within a matrix in the indigenous community that spans philosophies from diehard traditionalism to people who have gone all in on Catholicism for 400 years while retaining strong tribal cultural identities. People who have left the church with bitterness and resentment, those who enter the priesthood, and all sorts of modern eclectic beliefs that have tried to bridge traditional and Western beliefs.
The complex and variegated marriage of native Alaskan shamanism and Catholicism and Protestantism spans the gamut from complete abdication of traditional native Alaskan values in favor of Abrahamic monotheistic practice to forced incorporation of Protestant, Catholic beliefs into the more indigenous framework of spiritualism, and it's quite interesting to see. I grew up in a Protestant family, attending a church comprised of roughly an 80% indigenous population. This expressed itself primarily in the singing of Christian hymns in indigenous tongues, to the beat of tribal drums in traditional Inupiaq and Yupik garb, but I've also seen and heard other native elders participate in other blended ways, such as practicing what would ordinarily look to Christians as witchcraft, but in the name of Jesus, so as to be permissible. I am not Native Alaskan myself, so it isn't my place to speak to the mindset, but my curiosity has certainly led me to inquire of my elders in the church how they came to a sort of internal consensus with regards to honoring their native culture while still adhering to the framework of Protestantism, and the answers have been quite varied. I don't think there is any straightforward answer here, but one thing remains certain: for many, there is rage, even as an undercurrent.
I'm not native but have native family members, and got, I guess you would say, blessed and inducted into the grass dance by my mentor who is Assiniboine, and when she was asking me questions, part of it involved Jesus. I was like, well, it is okay, because I'm not Christian and didn't grow up with that, but she explained to me that Jesus was the stand-in in it, so they were allowed to do the grass dance. My half-sister, Turtle Mountain Chippewa, her grandmother was kidnapped to a residential school.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.